Welcome in to Duval Daily, your daily dose of Jacksonville Jaguars news and analysis. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thanks for tuning in. Today, we're taking a look at ESPN's three-round mock draft from a Jaguars perspective, of course. Mel Kiper and Todd McShay, ESPN's top experts, go back-to-back, McShay making the odd number picks, Kiper making the even. I'm going to grade each pick for the Jaguars and then grade the three rounds as a whole. You can follow myself on Twitter at Jordan DeLugo, Generation Jaguar, at Generation Jag. If you enjoy the content, please go ahead, like and subscribe on YouTube at Gen Jag. Exciting couple days here. 8 days till the draft. Really exciting couple weeks. But last night we had Jaguars head coach Doug Peterson bringing the heat, throwing out the first pitch at the Jumbo Shrimp game. Good stuff. Nice to see him out in the community getting involved, and he's still got a killer arm. You can go, I'm sure, find that video on Twitter. But yeah, today we're looking at ESPN's three-round mock draft that they dropped on Tuesday, April 19th. Like I said, Todd McShay goes with the even numbers. Mel Kiper goes with the odd number. Excuse me. McShay's got the odd numbers. Kiper's got the even numbers. So McShay's making the first pick here for the Jacksonville Jaguars at number 1 overall. He has the Jaguars taking Aiden Hutchinson. This is his explanation. Top selection, best player on the board. It's that simple. Josh Allen and Hutchinson, who had 14 sacks last season, would form a fantastic edge rush duo in Jacksonville. I couldn't agree more with the end of that Josh Allen and Hutchinson would form a fantastic edge rush duo in Jacksonville. However, best player on the board, not for me. For some, certainly. And I understand that. He checks off most of the boxes that you're looking for. I think the only thing you could say about him in a negative light is that he does have short arms, 32-inch arms, and that he doesn't always show the most bend. However, there are examples of bend on tape. And he kind of showed that at the combine as well, that it's within him. It's within his ability. He's going to need to continue improving that, making it more consistent. This is a guy that we've talked about a lot on this show. I've written a lot about over the last 6 months or so. Great speed and explosion to threaten the edge, and then has a ton of moves and counters to work back inside, to work around tackles. Just really an advanced pass rush toolbox for Aiden Hutchinson to go along with some excellent overall athleticism, really startling athleticism. On some plays, he's just able to finish in ways that you would just not imagine a guy that's 6'7", 260 plus would be able to. Some of his movement skills are just really shocking at his size. So does this make sense for the Jaguars? Yes, it absolutely does. Pass rusher has been the direction the Jaguars have been seemingly moving towards throughout this entire offseason with all the moves they've made. This is a very good pass rush class overall. There's not a Myles Garrett level talent or a Nick Bosa level talent or a Chase Young, but Aiden Hutchinson is right below those guys in terms of how I project him moving forward. I got to give this pick an A-. He's not the top player on my board. I think Evan Neal fills that spot, but culture fit, absolutely. The Jaguars are all about positivity right now in terms of, just positive energy moving forward. You kind of see that throughout the coaching staff. You see that with Trevor Lawrence, Shaquille Griffin, some of the other leaders on the team. So Hutchinson fits in that. He's going to be a tone setter on that defensive line. He's going to help Josh Allen produce more. He's going to help the entire defense produce more. He has some incredible wins where he just gets into the backfield, into the quarterback's lap in a blink of an eye. So yeah, I would give the Jaguars an A minus for this one. Evan Neal would be my pick. Um, Aiden Hutchinson is the number two option, though, in my opinion, in terms of prospects available at the top of the draft. I do think Kayvon Thibodeau should have consideration here, but I don't think the Jaguars are into him at number one. I think overall, Hutch has a cleaner projection to being a very good starter. You could say that Thibodeau might have a higher ceiling, but I think Hutchinson has a very high ceiling in his own right. So I would be very on board with this pick. The likelihood of it happening, I still think he's the most likely pick at number one, but the Trayvon Walker buzz just keeps growing. He's a guy that Trayvon Walker has all the athletic ability, has the ability to set the edge, length, everything you want, except for the most important thing, pass rush ability. He is a raw pass rusher, bottom line. You can blame it on the way Georgia used him. You can blame it on, it being a race to the football for that talented Georgia defensive line and defensive front. But the bottom line is he did not show enough pass rush juice, enough of a pass rush plan and toolbox when he was asked to rush the passer, in my opinion, for him to be a top overall pick. So yeah, this would be an A minus for me only because I think Evan Neal would be a better overall pick for the Jaguars. But you can call this an A minus, an A. It doesn't really matter. Aiden Hutchins is going to come in. He's going to be able to defend the run for you, play opposite Josh Allen, and create some pressure on opposing quarterbacks. And that's really going to help out the entire defense in terms of his ability on a 3-down skill set. You'd have to be really happy with this pick overall. There's some rumblings coming out lately, last couple days. Would Trent Baalke be petty enough to pass on Aiden Hutchinson because he comes from Michigan, where Jim Harbaugh is the head coach? Jim Harbaugh and Baalke have a checkered, excuse me, a checkered past, a rough relationship. Baalke was the GM in San Francisco when Harbaugh was the head coach. Uh, that relationship did not go well. Harbaugh has spoken out against Trent Baalke on multiple occasions. So would Trent Baalke pass on his top guy if that is in fact his top guy, simply because he doesn't like his former head coach? That would be just another level of petty. And honestly, if you're willing to do that as a general manager, you shouldn't have your job. Bottom line. And I'm not saying Baalke would do that. We'll find out. We'll find out if he does select Aiden Hutchinson. Obviously, we'll probably never find out if Aiden Hutchinson is not the pick. Why wasn't he the pick? They're going to just give you the idea that they like Trayvon Walker or whoever it may be more than Hutchinson. They're not going to come out and say it's because Baalke and Harbaugh don't get along. But something to watch, something to think about. It would be totally shocking to me if that's the reasoning. And again, we'll probably never find that out if that is the case. But goodness, that is just not something you want to think about. You do not want the GM of your football team to be making decisions based on personal relationships with coaches of players coming out of college. That would just be a disaster. Now, the Jaguars' second pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, getting back to this ESPN 3-round mock with Mel Kiper and Todd McShay. McShay has this pick again. Odd number pick. Jaguars go with Tyler Linderbaum, the center out of Iowa. Here's what McShay has to say about Linderbaum in this pick. Linderbaum is a first-round talent who is still there on day 2. And wouldn't you know it, the Jags have a hole at center after Brandon Linder retired this offseason. Yeah, if Linderbaum falls out of the first round, I'd be shocked if the Jags don't take him, to be completely honest with you. He, to me, is super similar to Jason Kelsey, who Doug Peterson coached in Philly for some time. He's a guy that can get out and move, very athletic, undersized, sure, but very athletic. He's stronger than you would think for a guy his size, able to play with leverage, able to play with power, technicality. Uh, I think it would be a home run pick. I'd have to give the Jaguars an A plus if they land Tyler Linderbaum at 33. Of course, the reason Linderbaum could be available is A, he's undersized, B, he plays center. And when you look at the center position, it's undervalued in terms of contracts, in terms of where these guys get drafted. And then the fact that Linderbaum is kind of scheme specific. You need him in a zone blocking scheme where you get him out moving a lot, get him on the move, out in front of plays. You're not really going to want him in a gap power scheme necessarily. And the Jaguars are going to run a lot of zone, a lot of outside zone, wide zone plays uh, in the run game. And Linderbaum's excellent in pass protection. He's not a perfect prospect. Sure, there's going to be some defensive linemen who kind of engulf him at the next level in terms of their size and length. But overall, I think Linderbaum is going to be a stalwart, a 10-year plus starter in the NFL. He's going to make a bunch of Pro Bowls. He's going to make some guys look really silly. And again, this is an A plus for the Jaguars if they're able to land Tyler Linderbaum at 33 overall. And I do think there's a good chance he falls out of the first round. I don't think he should. But again, you have to find teams that want to run zone blocking scheme. You have to find teams that need a center and are comfortable with a guy who's undersized. And for that reason, he has a limited pool of teams that could target him in round one. And him falling to round two certainly is a possibility. Quay Walker is still on the board, I believe, here, which you should also look out for in terms of who the Jaguars might pick. Lewis Seen, I could see Trent Baalke loving him, the Georgia safety. He's just a heat-seeking missile who plays with great awareness and really plays within the defense. Yeah, so you've got Quay Walker still on the board, Kenyon Green still on the board, and Lewis Seen. I think the Jaguars would consider all those guys, but ultimately, do I think they might pick Tyler Linderbaum over the lot of those prospects? Yeah, I do think they might do that. And they do have a need at center long term. They have Tyler Shatley there right now. He's 31 years old. He's on a 2-year deal. He's never really been a full-time starter. So adding Linderbaum in there, you could probably insert him into the starting lineup from day one and then have Shatley shift back to that um, backup interior offensive line role where he really has thrived, being a backup left guard, right guard, and center. I think that would make your offensive line a whole lot better. Now, moving into round 3 for the Jacksonville Jaguars, this is where this mock draft gets really interesting. I don't know about this from Todd McShay and Mel Kiper, but let's go ahead and check it out. Wan'Dale Robinson, receiver out of Kentucky, transferred from Nebraska. Again, this is another McShay pick. He says, get the ball in this guy's hands. He'll break your ankles with explosive shiftiness and then run away from you with his speed. Jacksonville could use another playmaker for Trevor Lawrence. I agree. In terms of, yes, the Jaguars need another playmaker. They need more offensive weapons. I also agree that Wan'Dale Robinson is dynamic with the ball in his hands, incredibly tough to tackle, super explosive cuts in the open field that leave defenders just grasping at air. Honestly, you'll love that. But this guy is 5'8", severely undersized, very short arms, did not test overly impressively, in my opinion. 4.44 40-yard dash. That's a mouthful. A lot of fours there. Also did not show explosive leaping ability in terms of that vertical and that broad jump. But um, would I slam the Jaguars for this pick necessarily? No. But would I be over the moon about it? Also, no. Again, he's 5'8", 178, 27.5-inch arms. Um, his 10-yard split, 149, you like that. But 34.5-inch vert, not overly impressive. He's not a nuanced route runner. He needs to develop in that regard. And in my mind, he is an offensive weapon. You throw him in the slot, you move him around the formation, but he's not going to be an outside ball winner. I don't think he's going to be a contested catch type of guy at the next level. He's going to be a gadget player. He's going to be a guy who can win from the slot. But again, for a slot receiver, you really want somebody who is a more dynamic and refined route runner than you would be getting from Wandale Robinson. I think he should be a late third, early fourth round pick. So this is top of the third. I don't like the value here. I think the Jaguars really need someone who's going to be more of an outside receiving threat. You've got Christian Kirk, who the Jaguars will move around the formation. They will line him up out wide, but he's going to be most productive and most efficient from the slot. Evan Ingram is going to be most efficient from the slot. Um, You've also got Jamal Agnew, who we can't just pretend did not break out last year. He did break out before his injury. As long as he's able to come back and be the guy we saw prior to that injury, Jamal Agnew, I think, gives you everything Wandale Robinson gives you, and maybe more. I think he's a better route runner. I'm giving this a C plus. I think Wandale Robinson would help your team. He would make you more explosive, more dynamic, more difficult to scheme for, but his skill set is slightly redundant in this offense. Now, we finally get Mel Kiper's first Jaguars pick here at number 70 overall in the third round. He goes with another diminutive wide receiver, Calvin Austin out of Memphis. This is what Mel Kiper has to say about this pick. I'm going to double up on short slot receiver for the Jags because I'm not sure Laviska Shenault Jr.'s future in Jacksonville. Todd gave the Jaguars Robinson a few picks ago, and Austin is a dynamo with the ball in his hands. At 5'8", he ran a 4.32 40 at the combine. Austin and Robinson can be versatile targets for a quarterback who needs them. Again, I can say all the same things I just said about Wandale in terms of the redundancy of this selection at this point in the draft. However, I do think Calvin Austin has the ability to win on the outside, despite being 5'8", really a hair under 5'8", 170 pounds. He has the ability to win on the outside because he is faster. He is a better route runner. He has better releases against press coverage. He has longer arms. He ran that 4.32 40. He leaped 39 inches, had that 11.3 broad, did well in the short shuttle and the three cone. He shows the ability on tape, and he showed the ability at the combine to separate, to run routes, to win against press coverage. So this is a guy who I would feel much more confident in terms of being a versatile weapon than Wandale Robinson, who I think is going to be limited to being slot / move around the formation offensive weapon. I think Calvin Austin actually has the ability to win on the outside, to win in the slot. He's going to separate down the field with more consistency than Wandale Robinson. He's a better athlete than Wandale Robinson. In a vacuum, not looking at the fact that they just mocked Wandale to the Jaguars at 65, I would give the Jaguars a B- for taking Calvin Austin at 70. However, you did just take Wandale at 65. You're stacking Wandale Robinson and Calvin Austin on top of a group that already has Christian Kirk, who is similar but bigger than these guys, has more outside ability than Wandale Robinson, certainly, and more size than Calvin Austin. But Jamal Agnew has that same skill set. Laviska Shenault does it differently, but you use him in a lot of the same ways that you use these guys. He's more of a big, athletic, powerful receiver, but again, you're going to use him as a weapon if you keep him around. So, yeah, I think drafting Wan'Dale Robinson and Calvin Austin in the third round at 65 and 70 is just, again, redundant. You're going to have Wan'Dale Robinson, Calvin Austin, Jamal Agnew, Laviska Shenault, and Christian Kirk, and Evan Ingram, and Dan Arnold all vying for slot roles. Uh, how do you get all these guys on the field at the same time? I'm not going to sit here and say that these two guys wouldn't make the Jaguars more explosive, more talented, but there's a logjam now in the slot that I don't know how you correct it. Again, I do think Calvin Austin has the versatility to win outside a lot more than Wandale because he's got longer arms. He's got more athleticism. He's a better route runner. He has better release packages. But I can't imagine drafting both back to back at 65 and 70. It's kind of absurd, if you ask me. I'm not sitting here just trying to bash these guys. I think McShay and Kuiper are plugged in. They've been doing this for a long time. I respect their opinions, but there's just simply no way the Jaguars take Robinson and Austin at 65 and 70. And I think Austin is more likely to be a Jaguar than Wandale, to be completely honest with you. So, Jaguars at number 1 overall land Aiden Hutchinson. At 33, Tyler Linderbaum. Both of those get A's for me. Hutchinson an A minus, Linderbaum an A plus. That is great value for the best center in the draft at 33. Then at 65 and 70, Wan'Dale Robinson is a C plus for me. Calvin Austin is a B minus. I'd probably give the Austin pick a B if Robinson was not the pick 5 picks earlier. Overall, I would give this a B because the first 2 rounds are the most important. And you're getting a guy to pair with Josh Allen, who's going to help you against the run. He's going to help you on third down against the pass. He's going to be a tone setter, a team leader, a guy who fits in seamlessly with the culture you're trying to create in Jacksonville of positivity. Tyler Linderbaum is going to come in, I think, start from day one at center. He's going to make Tyler Shatley shift back to that primary interior offensive line backup role, which is really where I think he fits best. He's going to fit this zone blocking scheme to a T. And I think he can be Doug Peterson's new Jason Kelsey. Then you get into the third round with Wandale and Calvin. I think if you left the third round with these two guys, you would be a more explosive, dynamic offense without question. I don't think the Jaguars would, in any world, take both of them in the third round. But if you got both of them in the third round, again, you would be a better offense for it. Even though there's redundancy there with Wandale and Calvin and with what's already on the roster, I still really love Calvin Austin. And I don't have any problem with Wandale Robinson as a prospect. I just think he's not going to be a pure receiver. He's going to be more of a weapon. So, I don't value him at 65. I value him more in the 90s to 100s. Calvin Austin, I do think I value him around 70. Overall, I'll give this a B. The Jaguars got better on defense against the run and the pass. They got much better on the interior offensive line and they gained depth. And again, with Hutchinson, you're also gaining depth because you're pushing DeJuan Smoot and Arden Key down the rotation. And now you have a pass rush rotation that looks really good, especially on the edge. And then Linderbaum, again, he makes more depth for you on the interior of the offensive line. Austin and Robinson, they create more talent, more depth, but redundancy, sure. But that's going to be a B overall for the Jaguars. Again, no chance Robinson and Austin come off the board for the Jaguars in the third round. One of them, sure, very possible. And because you have to evaluate who else is on the board for the Jaguars at these picks, I think it's important to look at the receivers that are on the board when the Jaguars take Wan'Dale Robinson and Calvin Austin. So you've got Jalen Tolbert, who I think has the potential to be an outside receiver, which I think the Jaguars need a little bit more than a slot guy. And I think Calvin Austin, again, can play outside, but he's primarily going to be a slot due to his size. Khalil Shakir is still on the board out of Boise State. I think he's a slot as well. I think he might be a more reliable target, a better route runner than Wan'Dale Robinson, but he does not have the same explosiveness and kind of offensive weapon style of play. Oh, Melton was still on the board. He's an interesting one because he was a big time recruit. I think he has all the physical ability in the world, extremely fast, has enough size to play on the outside. Just really struggled in a bad offense at Rutgers. Looked good at the combine, looked good at the Senior Bowl, ran really well. 4.34 40 at the combine. Very athletic. I would value Bo Melton above Wan'Dale Robinson for the Jaguars. So you look at some of those guys. That's why I can't give Wan'Dale Robinson a great grade at 65. Some of the guys that were still available. Perrion Winfrey at 76. I do not see him falling to the third round. Perrion Winfrey falling to the Ravens at 76. That would just be a home run for them. Leo Chenal, the Jaguars at this point have not addressed linebacker. A linebacker to play with Foye Oluokun. I would value Chenal above Wan'Dale Robinson. Jaquan Brisker, Chad Muma, Channing Tindall. Those are the three names that come off the board after Wan'Dale Robinson. The more I look at this, the more I really can't stand that Wan'Dale Robinson pick. But I'll stick with a C+ because I do think he's going to help your football team and be explosive. But overall, the Jaguars get a B for this. They're redundant in the third round. They're passing up on better values in the third round, especially at 65. Would this be a disaster? No, but it's also unrealistic to think that they would get Robinson and Austin at 65 and 70. But Hutch, Linderbaum, those are two guys that you can build your foundation around without question. Do not hate that. That's going to do it. Thanks for tuning in, Duval. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Check ginjag.com for all the latest Jaguars news and analysis. And Duval Gear just dropped an article taking a look at Justin Ross, Trevor Lawrence's former teammate at Clemson. You can check that out again at ginjag.com. Thanks for tuning in, Duval, and have a great Wednesday.